So please welcome Penny and Chetan to the stage, already here, but round of applause or something? Is that what we do? Yeah. Thank you. Over to you guys.
Hi everyone. Thanks for coming to our talk this morning. My name's Chetan and I am a tester.
And I'm Penny and I'm a BA and we work at BNZ Digital.
So today we're going to talk to you about our team's journey into product management. It's a story about 10 bankers becoming cider brewers and chocolatiers, and how we took that whole experience and transformed it into delivering value for our customers. So you might be looking at us and going, oh God, they're wearing the same t-shirts. And I had the same concern last week, and I said, Penny, do you think it's too geeky that we wear the same t-shirts? And she quickly reminded me that it wouldn't be a problem because we're speaking at an Agile conference. So now that I've got you on our side, let's kick in. So like Penny said, we're from BNZ Digital, and that BNZ Digital is the part of BNZ that deals with kind of the online stuff. Our team happens to deal with business customers. I'm just kind of setting the scene here. So, and in our team, we've got business analysts, testers, we have developers, we have a product owner, we have designers, and we also have usability experts. And we actually used to build things in that traditional way, you know, where a product owner or the business would tell you what the problem is, and then we'd build something to try to solve that problem. But earlier this year, something different happened. We were brought to a meeting, and our leadership team said to us, guys, well, they showed us a slide. They said, guys, we're moving to the product owner model. And you're still going to be working Agile, but it means now you're going to own and you're going to be responsible for the area that you work in. And that was quite big for us. So after a few weeks and a whole lot of discussions, and those discussions were us trying to work out what is a product, we thought, yeah, let's try a few of these concepts out. So the first thing we had to do was come up with a team mission and some key results, and I'll show you those soon. So the product area that we were given was joining online business banking. So it's not a physical product, but that's our domain. Yeah, so I'm going to show you the mission now. Here it goes. Give the best first experience to enable customers to do their business banking online. So this actually took a fair amount of work. We had to research to find out what is the mission, what makes a good mission. There was lots of back and forth, and we went through many discussions and drafts. And we got to the stage and we thought, yeah, this is a really good starting point. What you might notice about this mission is that it's customer-centric. Something else is that it's really simple, like the language is really simple. Everyone in the team could buy into this mission. So we've got a mission. We weren't too fussed if it wasn't perfect, because you can tweak it if you need to. So the next thing is key results. So the first one ties in really well with our mission. It's that customers have a good first experience. The problem is when we started this piece, we didn't actually have any direct customer feedback. All we had was this anecdotal stuff, and that doesn't count. So we started by building this feedback widget, and we stuck it into our application. As soon as customers had gone through this online registration or our product area, they could tell us what they thought. So we built this widget, and we started capturing customer feedback, and we started to measure and baseline that. The second key result is that staff are advocates, and that might sound like a strange one, but it's there for a particular reason. And that is, it's really hard to sell your process as being the best when someone from your staff says something like, oh, we're sorry you have to go through this. So what we did here is we sent out a survey to our staff, and we actually got over 300 bits of feedback from them. And that just shows how much passion there is from our staff in this area. The third one that I want to share with you is a little bit more straightforward. It's reduced time to activate. And we knew that if we could get customers through this process as quickly as possible, then they can get on with doing things that are important to them, like paying their staff wages, paying their bills, running their businesses. So we've got a mission, and we've got some key results now. And here's what we know about online business banking registration, or our product area. Customers can only register for online business banking after they've gone through the process of getting a bank account, and that is a process in itself. So it's customer-driven. Customers have to enter their own account number, they enter in all their details, and then they submit some paperwork. And that process is slow, it's a bit painful, there is paperwork involved, signing, and there's a bit of waiting involved as well. So we also know that everyone we spoke to at the bank about this process, they thought it kind of sucked. So what did we do? Our product owner came up with this idea. He said, well, we're all BNZ customers. We've gone through that part. Let's put our customer shoes on. Let's register ourselves for online business banking. So we've all got our own accounts. We registered for online business banking, and along the way, we wrote down any pain points and any thoughts that we had. Then we sat down as a team, and we shared them. And that was really cool for two reasons. The first reason is that when we were sharing these ideas, or these pain points and thoughts, everyone had an equal voice. So it was really inclusive. The second reason it was really cool is it got us thinking about discovery work as a real thing. And if you're not sure what discovery work is, it's the kind of work you do to validate something before you start spending time and money and effort into building something. So even with a simple experiment like this, we're able to find some gems like, did you know the help button doesn't help? And some people actually couldn't even find where to start. They didn't get as far as this slide. So we got to the end of the experiment and we thought, yeah, this is only part of the puzzle. We've already got bank accounts, so we know what it's like when you've got an account number. But what about people that are joining the bank from scratch? What's it like for those guys? So we ran some stats, which is something we do, and we found out that actually 50% of people that join online business banking are new to the bank. So we'd only really uncovered half of the story. Something else I want to share with you is that we'd actually worked on this piece about a year ago, and we did it in that kind of features way where we built some stuff. And we concentrated on the online screen, and we did manage to move some metrics, but only slightly. And the overall feedback we got at the end of it was, this process still could do with some work. So we knew that we needed to do another experiment. But before we did it, we thought we should have some key outcomes that we want to achieve. And I'm going to run through those now. The first one is team buy-in. We wanted the whole team to be involved in this next experiment. We wanted to feel the pain. We're putting our customer shoes on. Things don't feel real until you've done them yourself. We wanted to understand the process, because this is our product area now. We thought anything we can learn in this space would be foundational to anything that we were going to build in the future. We wanted to uncover opportunities. So traditionally, this is where someone would tell you what to build, but this was our product area. We were making the rules now. We had to find out where can we start? Where are the best places that we can make improvements? And we also wanted to share our learnings with our stakeholders or anyone else that was interested. So now we've got a mission, we've got some key results, and we've got some outcomes that we want to achieve. And Penny's going to share what we did next.
Cool, so we decided, how about we go undercover? Let's make up some fake businesses and let's kind of test this process for real. So this was quite different to how we'd usually work. We wouldn't usually go so far outside our digital domain. And we had people going, is this going to be worth it? But we thought, let's take that risk. So we decided to split our development team into two teams. And we wanted to make it fun, so we chose two things that make us happy, so alcohol and chocolate. And so one team would become a cider brewery team, and one team would become kind of a boutique chocolate company. And we split these two teams so that they would better match kind of the size of our usual customers. We also wanted them to start at different points so we could both see both sides of this experience. So the cider brewers would start in store, and the chocolatiers would start online. We had huge knowledge gaps of this whole process, so we weren't actually sure where they were going to end up. So in order to make this work, we needed to get that team buy-in first. That was going to be really key. So people often ask us, how do you get team members involved that aren't used to this kind of discovery work? And we have kind of three answers to that. So the first one is make it fun. People inherently want to do fun things. The second thing is let people self-select. So with our businesses, we kind of said, hey, if you don't want to be that account owner that goes into the store, that's okay. Maybe you can be the silent partner. You can go through the online flow and you can take the notes. Let people be comfortable in the role that they're in. And the third thing is make sure that there's the right support in place. So luckily we had access to kind of usability experts, and they gave us some tips which we're going to share with you. Because you can't just throw a whole delivery team into discovery greenfields without setting everything up first. So one of the first things they told us to do is get your measures set before we even start. So we wanted to compare both of these flows, these two businesses, and so we came up with a measuring template. And this template would be filled in by each person after each activity. And this kind of held two types of information. You'd have information like how long a task took, how many tasks there were, and then you'd have the other side of things, which was that emotional side. So that's how would you rate this process on a scale of 1 to 10? What were your expectations? Were those expectations met? And that way you kind of got a full understanding of both sides of the process. The next thing was time boxing. So we knew that we could go down a rabbit hole if we didn't put some time boxes in place. So we'd done some stats and we found that this process roughly took around 2 weeks. So that became our kind of target date. The next thing we did was said, okay, experiment is priority number 1. And that again is putting that team mindset that this discovery work is just as important as the stuff that we deliver. We also made sure that everyone blocked out time in their calendars for these activities, as well as some time for debriefing afterwards, so we could fill in those templates and get the information at the right time. So the following Monday, we kind of had our backstories for our businesses, we had our measures in place, and we were ready to go. The energy was really high. And we decided, let's run these two businesses independently. We didn't want them to influence each other because we didn't know whereabouts they would be in the process. That being said, we caught up just enough so each team could kind of get a broader view of the whole experiment. So here are some pictures of us actually doing this experiment. So here's us filling in some of the online forms. Already we're confused by the bank jargon, and we're bankers, so that's not a great sign. Here's us filling in one of those measuring templates that I've just been talking about. So the person sitting down, that's Phil, our mainframe developer, and he's writing down here that he's metaphorically tearing his hair out because after a particularly grueling experience at the bank. Here we are opening some packages from the bank. We're about 1.5 weeks in now, and we still haven't quite gone online, but we're nearly there. And this is us when we finally got our bank accounts and we're getting online. So I don't know if you've ever seen a developer excitedly call over people to read an email from a banker, but if you haven't, this is what it looks like here. So throughout this whole process, we've been taking videos, we've been taking photos, kind of recording down all these measurements, but we didn't want it to kind of just die on a drive somewhere. We wanted to make it visual. And so the way we decided to do that was use journey maps. So these are our two customer journey maps here. Up the top we have the cider brewery team, so they started in store. And below we have the chocolatiers, and they started online. So the journey map approach we took is it gets driven by tasks. And a task could be reading a 5-minute email from a banker, or it could be going in store for 2 hours, so those can vary. All the bright pink post-its you see are negatives, or we call them opportunities now, and the lighter pinks are kind of our positive experiences. We have methods of contact, our emotion line, so anything that we were recording down in those measurement templates is visually represented up here. Along the bottom, we've got all the kind of paperwork and forms and emails that we had to sign along the way. And what this gives you straight away is a real visual representation of the whole experiment. So between the two teams, we found we had 19 positive experiences and 76 negatives, which is pretty crazy. So I'm just going to throw a question out to you guys now. Who do you think got online first? So hands up if you think cider brewery that started in store. And hands up if you think chocolatiers that started online. Cool, so it's cider brewery that started in store, got online first, but only by 1 day. And that took just over 2 weeks. So it's kind of hard to see the scale of how big this is, but this was on a wall, and this covers about this much area. So it's pretty huge. And it sits right next to where we work, and it's a really great talking point. So people will go past and ask questions. And the even better thing about it is that anyone in our development team could get up and talk to you about it because it's really simple to understand. So we were kind of looking at this process and we were going, man, this is so complicated. How is this so hard? there must be more to this story. So we decided, let's map out the behind the scenes, the staff side of the process. And that took up a whole other wall. And so straight away you see, you know, the staff process is just as complicated as our customer side of things. As we said before, one of our key results was that our staff are advocates, and we can't get them to be active advocates if we don't know what they're going through. So one of the real light bulb moments for us was seeing where the duplicate information was and where we were asking for it, and this really translated into that inconsistent kind of customer experience we were seeing. So when I said this takes over 2 weeks, that was duration and not necessarily effort. So we had downtime, and when we weren't kind of collating our data and sticking it up on the wall, we used this time to talk to actual customers. So our experiment had dealt with kind of the smaller type of customers, but we deal with people of all businesses of all sizes. So we started validating it with them. And we found they had a pretty similar experience. What was great is we had the whole team attend those customer sessions. And the customers themselves were really blown away when we went, don't worry, we know, we've just gone through it, we understand your pain. So with both the customer and the staff side of things mapped out, that had kind of brought us to the end of that 2 weeks, and we were ready to come back together and let's look overall and see what our kind of key findings were. So as you saw before, this is one of the journey maps for the team. And these are our digital screens here. So this is our product area. So straight away you see, man, customers are really unhappy before they even get to our register button. Any excitement we had from those businesses was really quickly dampened by the hassle of getting banking. There was a whole lot of paperwork, a whole lot of jargon. And it just makes us think, you know, what's the point of fixing these screens and making these amazing if it comes at the end of this real arduous process? So we had that team buy-in. We definitely started feeling that pain. We'd mapped out the process, and the next thing was, okay, where do we go with all this information?
Yeah, so where do we start? We started by thinking about our sphere of influence. So we knew we had direct control over some screens, but some parts of this process we didn't have any influence over. And then we started thinking about those clusters of pain points, all those pink post-it notes that we had on our journey map. And then we pulled all the information that we had from our staff survey, all that 300 bits of feedback that we got from them. And then we started to pull it all together, and we used all the tools that we had on offer. So we had a persona workshop, and this is a tool where you start to think about who your key customer is. You start to think about building a solution that's perfect for that key customer. The idea is that you make it perfect for them and you don't break it for anyone else. And that's a CAT Hardesty tool that we used. Then we had an assumptions workshop, and that's a really cool tool. We started thinking about which assumptions have we validated and which ones do we still need to work through. If you want to find out more about that, you can look up David Bland. I always think of David Blaine, but it's David Bland. Yeah, and then we had an opportunity canvas, and that's a really cool tool as well. You think about who is your key customer, or who is your key user, and what is their key problem. You think about ways that they're solving that problem, and it helps you uncover other ways that you can solve that problem. Yeah, so that's a Jeff Patton tool if you want to look that up. So we had all these sessions that we went through, and you're probably wondering, where did that lead to? Well, it led to this. We thought the best thing we could do is to move our online banking registration, our product area, and make it happen in parallel with joining the bank. So when you're going to the bank and you're sitting down and you're getting all your paperwork sorted out, and sorting all that stuff out, signing bits and pieces, your online banking registration, all that stuff is happening in the background. So when you get an account number, you're set up for online as well. So a really good way of thinking about how we were treating our customers is with a coffee analogy. So say I walk into a coffee shop, and I go to the barista, and the barista says, what would you like? I say a flat white. So then the barista would take my name, tell me it'd be 5 minutes. 10 minutes later, the barista calls, or a different barista actually, different tattoos, calls my name, and asks if I want a cup. And I'm thinking, yeah, of course I want a cup. That's how you drink coffee. So they take my name again and tell me it'd be another 5 minutes. And this is how we were treating our customers. We were serving them coffee without cups. So when people join the bank, they expect to have online banking. That's just what they want. That's how they bank. So we were thinking, yeah, this process change, this is what we need to do. And we started to map out how we could get this piece to hang together. And then we realized something. This doesn't actually require a dev team. It requires change management, and that's not our skill set. So our team had just learned a really valuable lesson, and that is the problem isn't always a technical one, and your dev team might not be the best team to solve that problem. But we did like that solution, and we didn't want to let it go. So we spoke to our stakeholders about it, and they agreed to let us run it as a pilot in production with the help of a change manager. So here you can see the bottom stream, and it's a delivery stream, and we've got the process change stories. That's the pink post-its. And we've got our delivery team, our dev team, helping to support that process change by automating parts of the process that would add the most value. And after a little while, we were thinking, you know what, this isn't still not enough work for a dev team. But if you think back to those, big maps that we had, journey maps, there were a lot of problems that we could be working on. So we had like infinite amount of work that we could be doing. And that's our second column up the top, or row, sorry. That's our discovery stream. And this is our example of dual tracking. And if you want to find out more about dual tracking, go see Ant Berbia's talk at 3. So we've got two streams going at once now. And the whole team had just done this experiment. So we're all amped up, and we had so much knowledge of how this process held together. We just needed a way of turning all of those opportunities or all those other pieces and getting them into some kind of like prioritized order. So we came up with this technique, and it's really quick and it's really inclusive. So I've got a card here, and on one side it's got an arrow that points up or down. On the back of the card it says leave it. So if you imagine we have one story here, it's the yellow story. Is the pink story of higher priority or lower priority? Or is it in the right place? It works if there's 3. So the whole team has these cards, and we go 3, 2, 1, and we vote. We vote it up. Pink story, higher priority than the yellow story. What's really cool about this is it's inclusive, and it's really, really quick. So that was traditionally something that our product owner and our business analysts would sit aside and do. They'd usually order the backlog, but now the whole team's doing it. So the whole team's got buy-in. It's always majority wins. If there's a draw, it's a good indication that your team needs to have a conversation. So the idea here is you just state why you voted a particular way, and then at the end you just do a revote. We've never had a situation where we've had 2 draws in a row, so that's quite cool. And it's so quick that at any stage you could just reprioritize, and it's not a hassle, and the whole team agrees. So we've kind of showed you stuff that worked really well, but it didn't always end up that way.
Yeah, so one of the things we didn't do very well is we spent all this time getting team buy-in, but we didn't necessarily get the buy-in from our project manager or our stakeholders who were kind of footing the bill. And if you can imagine seeing a delivery team kind of down tool for 2 weeks, it's a bit of a scary thing. And so one of the lessons we learned is that we should be sharing as we go. And again, sharing those discovery stories just as important as those delivery stories. We had always planned on sharing our learnings, but we were going to do that afterwards. Like, yay, look at all the great stuff we've done. But also by doing that, other development teams who we worked with didn't get to see that energy and see what good stuff we were doing. So once we did kind of walk through our stakeholders with this, they were on board, and that was awesome. And one of the ways that we did this was by using that coffee analogy. So you don't need your stakeholders to go through that 2 weeks of experimenting to get them on board. We used an analogy that gave them kind of the high-level vision, and then they can buy into that. So just to recap what we wanted to achieve on the outset. So team buy-in. So we got team buy-in for the experiment, and we got it going forward now as well. They're involved in kind of the prioritizing and choosing what we're going to work on. We've definitely felt the pain, so everyone's got that really high level of customer empathy now. We understand the process, so not just our part, but what comes before and after. We've uncovered a whole lot of opportunities, and we've got those ready around, what's going to be the most valuable to work on first. And we've started sharing those learnings. So not just with our stakeholders, but people who are interested in kind of this whole experimenting thing. Which brings us to kind of the ultimate outcome that we got from this. And this was that the team is owning the product. So we kind of admit, there's a relatively big time investment up front, but now we own this product area, we can only build on it, and we don't need to do this again. We can have that discovery running alongside our delivery. One of the great things is that the team now understand why there is a problem, not that there is a problem, go and fix it. And it's changed the way that we're having conversations. So one example that I like is when we're having a story huddle. The acceptance criteria will say something like, customers get sent the information at the right time. And before we would have got questions going, so what's the right time? Is it when this button is clicked and this is sent over here? And now we're getting developers going, actually when I did it, the right time wasn't here because I wasn't ready for this yet, it was over here. And it's just changing the way that we talk.
So a couple of things that I really took away from this experiment was not to be afraid of experimenting on the product you own. And another key one was to think outside the box. If we just concentrated on those screens, we wouldn't have seen the big picture and we wouldn't have made the process better for everyone. What you're really wanting to know is how did that cider brewery and how did the chocolatier business go? We actually went bust, but if you want to sign up for online business banking now, the process has never looked better. So that's the end of our talk, so thanks so much for coming. Thanks for listening.